Shada! Hi everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Doctor Who Review bonus episode 2. When you presumably are watching this, you have recently seen. I liked your vine horn.
Thanks.
The vine horn from Mindhorn. You presumably have seen the season 17 review. Some of you have thought, "Where's Shada?" Which means you didn't watch to the end. We kind of had to do Shada as a separate video, really, because it isn't a season 17 serial.
No.
It was meant to be.
Dun, dun, dun.
But it wasn't. We're not going to go into the complete history of the BBC production strike or the TV production strike of 79, because if we did, we'd just be repeating what everybody who's ever talked about Shada has ever done.
The Great Strike of 79.
But for those who don't know, the absolute basic bare bones is an old crone randomly declared it so, like this.
Oh, I declare that there's going to be some kind of strike on, and I don't like it, so we should just go.
Yeah, people who were being overworked and underpaid, working in the technical side of TV at the time.
And it was very serious, and that was me taking the mickey.
The Schmeichel. Yeah.
So,
they were all going on strike and going on immediate strikes and whatnot for across various productions. For example, one strike lasted 2 months, so for 2 months ITV just went off the air because they didn't have the people there to make it keep going, in either in new programs or organising the broadcastable.
imagine if they did that
content.
now. Well, they
Weird,
wouldn't.
right?
They wouldn't do that now because
They wouldn't do that now. Well, they just put on 1 million repeats, like what they've been doing on TV at the time I was recording this during the lockdown. But BBC got hit in a few places, and Doctor Who got hit halfway through them filming Douglas Adams' last script for the show as a script that he'd written. Last script as script editor. Shada! The cast and crew, as it says in the anecdotes in the booklet that came with this edition, they all came back from lunch, cast and some of the crew, to find the rest of the crew had locked up the studio, television centre, and buggered off home because immediate strike had been called.
God.
When it came to finishing the production after the strike, the BBC had to prioritise shows that were further up their ladder, either because of cost or emergency broadcast terms or whatever. So Shada was put on the back burner. Then incoming new sort of producer John Nathan Turner, who'd been working on the show in other roles, was like, "Oh, well, maybe I'll try and get it finished. Oh, but Tom's leaving at the end of next series. We're not going to be able to get it finished ahead of the rest of our production for Series 18. Maybe we'll just finish it separately and put it out as like a festive special at the end of 1980 instead. So Christmas,
very festive.
instead of it going out when it was meant to go out
Festive,
over December to January of 1979 into 1980, it would have just gone out randomly on TV as a mini event at the end of 1980.
Right.
But it would have been post Tom's leaving the show, so it would have had to have been billed as like a special broadcast.
Yeah.
But that became more and more complicated, so eventually that you just went,
Silly.
So Horns and Nymon was the last story, Series 17, and then next series begins, and off it goes on its way, and Shada was left behind. Some of the footage from Shada, specifically the Doctor and Romana punting along a canal in Cambridge,
Very romantic.
made it into the Five Doctors when Tom refused to return to the Five Doctors. More on that in a future video. And was used really well, actually, in terms of how they purpose the footage to show why the Fourth Doctor doesn't make it to the events, but also shows him being taken like the others.
And people's theories about it as well were pretty good. Like, that's why Shada was never finished.
Oh, right, because it's like the story starts, but then he gets taken away.
Yeah.
But also, it means the moment in Shada where he briefly lets go of the punt and like wobbles on the boat. You could still, if you wanted, buy that as that's just the moment where his part in the Five Doctors starts, because of course the time scoop grabs him and then immediately places him back there when the story's resolved. It's like,
so he momentarily lets go of the
yeah,
boat,
because he's like, whoa, and Romana's like, what did you do that for? He's like, Anyway, off we go, because to him he's just temporarily been buggered somewhere in a trap.
Oh.
Yes, quit buggering me, young man. But we'll get to the Five Doctors near the time. So basically this is the unfinished serial from Doctor Who. And for an unfinished serial, my God, has this been finished a million times. Everyone in the comments before has been saying, why don't you watch this recon? Why don't you read this novelisation? The whole point of this task when we began it, because of course we are the people doing Doctor Who Review, my name is Chris.
I am not Chris.
Was to watch every complete one that we can. Some people have said, you're going to do the faceless ones. You're going to do like the stuff that's been done since you guys started, the animated reconstructions. We will, but we'll save them for a special later down the line.
Like this one.
Like this one, because Shada has had 2 versions released. When we first started doing Doctor Who review in 2018, my intention was for us to do Shada, but do this version, the 1992 VHS release of Shada,
right.
The Lost Story.
Yeah.
This had come out since then, the animated, fully restored recon, and I wasn't entirely sure about us doing it, but the more time went on, the more I thought, go on, let's do it as a bonus, and let's watch both. So we have. So what we have here is Shada 1992, which is a VHS release narrated by, in the gaps where nothing was shot, Tom Baker.
Yay!
In the Museum of was it Motion Picture, the Moving Picture and whatnot in London.
Yeah.
Shada! And
which was very good, but is no longer there.
Yeah, it was lovely. Although we never saw it in that state.
No.
We saw it when it was in like the big hallway on South Bank. Now it exists mostly as a James Bond exhibit.
Which is still cool.
Near Covent Garden, which is still cool, but not as cool as like having, the Queen Alien over here.
Yeah.
And like, parts of the set from Titanic over here and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's not as cool when it's just James Bond stuff. But what else? Trends. And we also have the 2017 partial reconstruction of Shada, where a team went in, animated all the gaps, and they got voice recordings from all the actors to fill in the stuff that was never put to film. And in the case of like the ship, re-recorded all of her lines so that she doesn't suddenly sound much younger in a couple of scenes.
Oh, Min! God, you scared the life out of me then.
So Minnie's also here, but she didn't watch
twitched.
Shada. She mostly just slept on her legs.
You okay?
So, what's the basic plot of Shada, my view?
The Doctor and Romana receive a distress call for somebody that they don't know from a professor in Cambridge.
Professor Chronotis.
And they go to see him.
Yeah,
and
it's implied they arrive early, drop off the TARDIS because he's not there, and then they bugger off and go for a sail up and down the canals.
And it turns out that this professor is also a Time Lord.
From the planet Gallifrey.
And he can't remember why he sent out a distress call, because they keep meeting but at random times, and he just can't keep up with himself.
Yeah, there's the idea that this Doctor has visited multiple times because of that gentleman who like tells him if Chronotis is in.
Yeah.
Who's like,
he's
yes,
like,
how do you know looking for Professor Chronotis? It's like, because you're always looking for Professor Chronotis. You did that in 1968 and 1969 and 1972. It's just implying that like this guy's seen him a lot. And the Doctor's like, oh, I also visited in 58, but I was in a different body. It's not like, what? The hell?
He's like the human.
Which Doctor visited Chronotis? I'm calling it now. It was probably Hartnell.
Okay.
Because he probably wanted a little bitch session about the fact that they both buggered off from Gallifrey.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
The distress call is... Sorry. The distress call is about a book that the professor took off of Gallifrey when he retired, which was very naughty and he shouldn't have done. And somebody knows this.
Because it's from the Panopticon archive. Mm-hmm. The Doctor even speculates it might be one of the artifacts of Rassilon.
Yeah.
Because it's that ancient.
And somebody knows this, and he's trying to get the knowledge from this book and find a criminal that was locked away on a forgotten Gallifreyan prison ship.
Which is called?
Shada! It's called Shada.
It's called Shada, heads the title. But yeah, so
and it's this villain who is who's taking the minds of people in the
Skagra.
Skagra, that's it.
The Skagra the Fabulous.
My God, bejeweled his own hat, bless. Excuse me. And yeah, so it's people trying to figure out what this book is that don't know what it is, and then it's the Doctor trying to get it without having his mind sucked out by this sphere. Yeah,
because it's Chris and Claire, isn't it? Who are the two humans who just double check. I can't quite recall now. It'll come to me. Well, they're the two. The student who Chris is the student who accidentally borrows it, and then he sees how it affects time. And him and Claire are like, "Oh, we've got to figure this out." And Skagra rocks up in Cambridge in a fabulous cape. And he's like, "I want the book," and he's got the floating sphere which attaches to people's heads and drains their mind. And we learn that what he wants is Sarajevin,
Why do they all begin with S? That's
who
very...
is
How do you keep up with this?
who is the prisoner locked in the Time Lord prison of Shada, a prison so full of the most heinous people of the Time Lord's past, either Time Lords or from other races, that they wanted to forget about them because that was the most fitting punishment. And so the Time Lords apparently stopped teaching people of Shada. Like, it was flat out erased from the memories of Time Lords as they studied. So the Doctor himself is like, Sarajevin, I know Sarajevin. And like, yes, it's going to Shada. What's that? I have no idea. Because the Time Lords don't know. But this book is the only thing that contains the information on how to get to Shada. And Skagra wants to get hold of Sarajevin because Sarajevin was a Time Lord who was apparently very insidious. He did a lot of nasty things, apparently. We never really find out
much about him, yeah.
But we know that he had a power to project his mind into other people. Skagra is a...
What would you do with that, though?
It's possession,
Make
essentially. It's possession, yeah. So we learned that you could, if you wanted to... Why would the Time Lords want to erase everyone's knowledge of it, of this thing existing, if they didn't want people to find it? It's not necessarily because they're like, we don't want anyone to ever discover them and let them out. Surely they'd need someone to know about it in case something went wrong. Unless, of course, say, Sarajevin was meddling with, political affairs or something like that. So they were like, no, let's get rid of him so he can't say anything. Because for all we know, it turns out he wasn't a nasty bugger of a Time Lord. He might have been doing something good. And the uppity people at the top wanted to get rid of him.
Someone and that person didn't like
and he was able to obviously be more effective because he could transfer his mind into other people. So Skagra, as we learn, is a brilliant geneticist, biophysicist, and a psychotherapist, and expert theologian, and all this, that, and the other.
A very smart person.
Yeah, they basically let you know, because we find the ship that he last came from full of all these geniuses that were going from one place to another. And while they were all in the stasis, he used the programming to drain all of their intelligence and leave them as babbling husks in this invisible ship that seemingly has been there for a long time, because they are old when we catch up to them. And it turns out his plot is that he wants to get old Sarajevin and learn his power, because with his knowledge that he already has of taking minds, he thinks combined he'd be able to take people's intelligence away, make himself smarter as a result, and put his mind and influence into everyone in the universe.
And essentially control the universe.
Yes, because, well, in this version, it's kind of made clear that it's more just a case of he's like, I want to, he wants to rule the universe and run it all.
I want to be the best person there is.
Yeah, so he rocks up and does this thing, and that is the plot. Spoilers for Shada, in case you haven't figured it out. We learn that after he sort of forcibly coerces Romana into helping him, we find the other ship. The Doctor learns from a temporarily intelligence-restored member of that crew what happened, because they briefly borrow Chris's brains. They're attacked by the Krog, who are these sort of big, lumbering, scaly, fiery brutes, basically, that work with Skagra to get everything done. And K9 gets a lot of shooty action in this story.
He does.
They fend him off. Eventually, they end up at Shada.
Skagra picks him up and throws him.
He does. A Krog does.
Sorry, Krog.
Yeah, Skagra wouldn't do it. It'd dirty his cloak. But they lob lobbing Kanan around. They get to Shada eventually and learn that, oh, wow, Sarajevin isn't here anymore. Apparently, he escaped long ago. And that's when we learn that Professor Chronotis is Sarajevin. And was in hiding, basically. So he sort of kills him, he fights back and he dies and whatnot. And then Skagra's like, oh, well, I'm just going to... I still have the basic ability because I took it from him, so I'm going to cast my mind into other people. But early on in the story, he tried to take the Doctor's mind, so part of the Doctor's mind ended up in the machine, in the sphere, and the Doctor uses that to turn the tables, turn his zombified criminals against him. Yeah. It's pretty... And then Skagra gets a really great ending where he's just trapped in his own ship that... Since he's been there, the Doctor has reprogrammed into thinking the Doctor is wonderful. So Skagra's just stuck in this prison.
Stuck in this prison, just hearing about how wonderful the Doctor is.
Yeah, so it's what a great ending. I had seen this version before, this DVD of the 2000. What the hell am I talking about? It was released in 2013, but it's the 1992 VHS version.
Yeah.
This is the version I was familiar with, and I always thought that it was fine. like, just the story overall was fine. I
Yeah.
never got the fuss, really, of why everyone was like, oh, but it's Shada, though! I'd love to have seen Shada. It's like, yeah, I'd like to have seen it too, but is it that impressive? Well, it's Douglas Adams. Sure, but, like, is it that interesting a story? Like, having watched this, I'm not sure if it is. I'm glad we watched both.
Yeah, same.
Because after having this version in my head now, I really like the story.
Yeah, definitely.
Because in this version, Skagra is just a bit of a weird, smarmy supervillain,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
In this, he's like a Thanos-level supervillain,
Absolutely.
where you completely get his motivation. There's that amazing scene, which in here is just Tom describing a conversation between Romana and Skagra, and it's not Tom's fault that it doesn't pop. It's because it's just like,
You've got no visual
here's
to
3 paragraphs to sum up what's happening.
fully
Yeah.
understand, yeah.
Where he's saying, like, Scareth explains his plan to Romana. In this, you hear and see that scene through animation and the new voice recordings.
Yeah.
And in that scene, Skagra's basically like, look, this brilliant bit where he just holds his hand out. He's like, he points out, he says, what do you see out there, out the ship? She's like, stars. He says, what are they doing? Romana goes, well, they're just sort of there. He's like, exactly. Millions of atoms, billions of atoms. And they're just there. What do you see here? And he holds his hands out. She's like, nothing. And he's like, exactly. Nothing. There are millions of atoms right there doing nothing. But what about this? What if I do this? And he's moving his hands and he's like, that's billions of atoms doing something. There's potential there. Like, I can do this because they're being put to use. I don't have the power to harness the genetic and biological and, quantum mechanical makeup of the universe. I don't have the power to do that. So all this matter is just being wasted, especially by people who are boring and lazy and unambitious. So if I put my mind in everyone and grow my intelligence by taking it from everyone else, imagine what I could accomplish. You're like, this is a Thanos plan. This is a Thanos level plan of universal conquest. He doesn't want to rule the universe. He's like, no, I can make this better. You lot don't see it, but I do. He's mad. He's proper bonkers supervillain. Like, he's really good.
I mean, he's got a point, but,
No, but he's got a point, but it's that whole thing of like, but I'm going to erase everyone's brain and puppeteer them to make it happen. It's like,
you don't need to
what?
do it.
So I like Skagra a lot. I didn't care for him that much in this. I was like the Doctor I was mocking, what was it? I don't care much for your tailor. I'm not a fan of your tailor. Like, I was like that for this one. Then seeing it in full and getting all the scenes,
Yeah.
that was bloody good.
It was really good. I mean, a lot of pretty much the whole first episode really was fine. Like, there was no cutaways really, was there?
The first one of this, yeah. There's
Yeah.
only like a couple little bits missing, like Chris taking the book back.
Yeah.
And Tom Baker in his suit stood in front of a bunch of props. Which when he walks past them in the opening, beat you cock, and all that stuff, or he's just like chiding the robot and Davros. And that's in one take.
I know.
That entire 3-minute thing is just one take, and he's beautiful in it.
He's just...
Oh, he's so good.
He's the
And
cutest.
the fact that when he's referring to the story, he refers to the Doctor as me.
Yeah.
When he's recounting the story. It's like, of course you do.
He's such a cutie.
Of course you do, Tom.
But
yeah, like, it was mostly intact.
So I really enjoyed that first episode.
Like, you
'cause I
really
love the
love
Professor.
Professor Chronotis.
Because he's so cute. He's so adorable.
It's old
and I
ditzy
just-
Time Lord who offers people tea.
I liked the...
Who was it? What's it?
2 lumps.
It's, sugar, yes. How many lumps? No, it's
Milk.
There's milk and sugar, yes. 2 lumps. It's, how many sugars? It's like, wait, what?
2 lumps of what?
And that seems to be a thing as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, wait, what are the 2 lumps before the 2 lumps of sugar?
It was very cute to see the
I forgot to
Doctor and Romana talking to him, because it was like a proper cute little catch-up with an old friend. It was really
Eating
nice.
bloody spread on crackers and having
He's
tea.
eating Marmite, I mean, yikes.
Oh, let him have his Marmite.
Marmite is vile.
Yeah, and you don't have to eat it, so the Doctor can have it.
Well, that's fine. So yeah, I really, really liked that episode. And then the rest of it in this one, it was like, what? Who? What? There's some bloke singing. Okay.
Rid of the job, no, no, drag on it now.
Why is that in there? It's so
Because
weird.
people would have been doing that. Douglas Adams was writing. He was like fresh out of Cambridge about 5 years earlier. So he was just writing about, like, people be practicing choir stuff in the street, people riding around on bicycles.
2 of those boys were stood in the street.
Yeah.
Reckless.
We were saying, what would have made that? Because that's when the Doctor's being pursued by Skagra's sphere that wants to basically, like, kill him or steal his mind.
Yeah.
And he's on a bicycle. And he chimes the bell on the bicycle as at the right moment in the tune as he goes past him, which is bloody wonderful. But that shot would have been so much better if when the sphere goes past, just one person in the group goes like, "What?" and looks to see it, but no one reacts, so it's weird. And yet, when the sphere,
What's wrong with you?
I'm drunk. When the sphere chases him down the street in the next shot, and then it cuts back to the sphere going after him, your favourite moment of the whole story happened.
Of the whole series.
Does it go on? So please describe it. So you see the Doctor run down the street.
He runs down the high street, and then he runs down a little alley to try and get away from the sphere. And then it cuts back to the sphere going down the high street, and it just absolutely KOs this woman.
This woman with a shopping trolley.
Yeah, they're in this like shopping bags, and she just absolutely floors it. And,
God.
And then it just goes past other women that don't even look at it. So what I was thinking was that this woman genuinely fell in the shot, and they were like, "Oh, we can't. I didn't notice that before. We can't retake it. We'll just have it so the spear pushes her over." Why?
We rewound that so many times. I think.
Oh, it was funny.
I think that's the first instance since Leela slapping the woman in Horror Fang
Oh
Rock.
my god, that
where
was incredible.
You just wait and be like, "Oh my god, go back, do it again." And then I was like, "Honey, we're going to do it again when we watch the 2017 version. We'll get to see it again." Yeah.
So that was great.
That was great. The Krogs are alright. We don't really get to see them in the.
What I was saying
one.
That in this one.
92. You say 92.
Sorry, 92.
2017.
It's like, there's so many things missed out. I know that Tom's saying it, but you can't really visualise it.
Yeah.
What the heck is going on? I'm not really invested in the characters, except the Professor, because he's adorable. The villain
We
just
sad when he died.
Yeah.
And he used his last action to make his heart beat in Gallifreyan Morse code to let Romana know what was happening. Beware the sphere, beware Skagra. And then that lovely, because, oh god, this story does something that I love. I love when Time Lord regeneration and Time Lord death and stuff isn't straightforward. The classic series does it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The modern series invented all like glowing in light and just that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And the which is why I loved Capaldi, Smith's regeneration into Capaldi, because it's so quick. Where he's just like and he's like, what the hell? And he even seems to be like, what's happening? I like that because it was just different, and you don't really get that in as much in the modern series, but in this you do. So Chronotis dies.
Yeah.
Like he fights the influence of the sphere, and he dies doing it. Because the idea is if you let it drain your brain, you just made it into a mindless thing, but you'll live.
Mm-hmm.
If you fight against it, you'll die, and it just gets what it can get from you, basically.
So not good either way.
Not good either way. But obviously one I imagine is more painful than the other. Fighting it's probably more painful. And Chronotis fights it, and he's dying. And that's why all Skagra learns from Chronotis is that the Doctor's there, and they're looking for this book, and here's what the Doctor looks like, and here's what the book looks like. Mm-hmm. And he gets enough of a glimpse of the pages to get a sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
But then Chronotis comes back when Claire's fiddling with what turns out to be a TARDIS console in his office later.
Called it.
And he comes back, and he's in like Scrooge-style nightshirt and cap.
I know. I can't believe people actually slept in that.
I think the reason for that, because he tries to describe later that essentially you snatched me from a moment in time at the end of my life. So he's not alive, he's kind of just lingering. He's kind of there. I think the best way to describe it is he says that he's essentially a ghost. He's just a ghost, and he's in the room.
He is paler when he's in that nightgown. I think they actively made him paler to kind of make it look like.
Same with the choice of the nightgown and cap. I think it's there to give you like sort of Dickens-esque vibes of ghosts and things like that. But also the fact that he's still making tea. Like he's still offering to make tea, but he can't do the stuff to the circuits, implying that he can't interact with his machine. And he imparts, like he sort of has a moment where he you called it his fabulous eyeshadow stare.
Mm-hmm.
He stares at Claire, and then she suddenly is like, "Oh, right," and she understands how to do the tech. And of course, it's the first clue the story gives you that, wait a minute, Sarajevan can cast his mind into other people. Is that what is? But it also makes it clear that he didn't just take the book because he was like, "Oh, Time Lords don't care about this shit. I thought I'd look after it myself." He did it because he didn't want anyone to get hold of it and learn about him or go find him. Of course, he turns out to be Sarajevan. That's why I'm like, maybe his crimes were political, just something that the higher ups in Time Lord Society didn't like. Because you're never told what horrible things he did. You just know that the Doctor and Chronotis, when he pretends to not be, thingy, they always refer to it, apparently he was a horrible criminal, a terrible criminal, they had to lock him away. That's all you know.
But he had such flair.
Yeah, but that's the thing. He's so lovely and sweet and adorable. Yeah. And it might just be this incarnation, because he sort of implies that he's very old.
Yeah.
But it's the whole...
He said he'd been at Cambridge for 300 years.
Yeah, which implies he's been different... He's been different professors.
That nobody noticed.
Yeah, like...
Nobody on the faculty noticed.
Well, that's the thing, yeah, maybe it's the same body, but maybe he's been in different bodies, and it's just that thing of like, oh, every single one of them's been Professor Chronotis, and he's never moved,
so cute.
or... and it's just, oh, God, he's adorable. But that's the first hint you get that maybe it's him. What else? The Krog, we don't get to see much of them, really, in the 92 version. To the point where in the 2017 version, they're animated, of course. But there's also several scenes where their effects have been updated.
Yeah.
And there are a couple shots of Krogs versus K9 that were shot specially for it.
Yeah.
They had a couple studio days where they shot stuff especially for it, which are wonderfully inserted. I'm still not huge on this style of animation, and I think I figured out why it was odd to me in the first episode of this reconstruction.
Go on.
The use of the camera.
Right.
So the way the camera is placed within the animated scene.
Yeah.
It moves around in a way that the show would never have done.
Yeah.
And it's really strange.
That
it's
first bit in the lab.
When Chris arrives, it's just sort of going down the corridor, and now it's looking at him from the side. And you're like, camera wouldn't have done that on this show, so it just sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I don't like the art style of, do you remember The Reign of Terror?
Yeah.
I don't like the art style of the animation in that one, but it at least filmed it like it was a Hartnell close-up.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel jarring to see.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Power of the Daleks, which is the one the team did just before this one, looks better because it emulates the angles of the Troughton era and how the show looks in the live action bits. Whereas this one gets a little bit too cocky. And also flash animation always makes me laugh when the character's walking toward camera.
I know.
Because it lives or dies on how good the animator is at making it look as natural as possible. But also, I'm assessing the shot too much whenever I see that. In our Dennis the Menace and Gnasher series, I worked on 2013's version of Dennis the Menace and Gnasher. In our Dennis the Menace series, there's a shot in the one with the teacher's retirement home.
Yeah.
Where Dennis's dad comes through the door. It's that reveal at the end that Dennis's dad was the kid that made Mr. Cheddar freak out and start this facility for teachers. Because Dennis's dad basically was Dennis the Menace when he was a kid.
Yeah, that was very cute.
And his dad arrives at the end, and he's walking forward. He's been all friendly and stuff, and been like, I've not seen you in years, and all this. And he's been really friendly, but it's framed like it's this thing coming towards him. And it's really well done. The flash of him walking forward is done, because flash animation is different for hand-drawn animation. Hand-drawn animation is much smoother. Flash is cheaper and easier and quicker. So you've got to find ways in the workarounds to be visually interesting with it. And I'm sure there'll be animators in the chat going, actually, but I'm just talking from layman's term. When he walked towards camera in that, it didn't look too weird. When Skagra's walking through the corridor toward the Doctor behind him in this, it just looks really odd.
It looks like
coupled with the fact that his expression never changes. It's just that sinister, leering grin that they give him.
It's like they're just bobbing up and down.
Yeah, and getting bigger as they bob.
Yeah. Do you know that...
that sort of stuff didn't work for me, but there's other stuff that did.
You know the Adrian Brody video?
Brody Quest!
Brody Quest, where he's got this saxophone or guitar or something, he's just going...
Da, 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 da. He's just bobbing side to side.
That's what it makes me think of.
Yeah, well, that's flash animation, exactly. I
knew that would set him off, I'm sorry, guys.
I love Brody Quest so much. So it's in some places it just jars with me personally.
Yeah.
I think it might jar with others because of the overplaying of camera angles that doesn't fit with how the rest of the story looks. But that being said, there are some shots that are wonderful. Mm-hmm. That are really, really lovely. Stuff with K9 and the Krogs is great when it is in animation. The live action fill-ins are quite cute as well, because they're sort of done in that low budget style with the same tech, which is really nice. There's bits of close-ups of Tom when he's talking to the computer where they play around with his expressions a bit, and it does a bit more, and it works. It's like, oh, Yeah, no, that's the sort of face he would pull. That is the kind of sort of way he would move his lip and furrow his brow, and that's nice. Well done, team. Like that looks good. I quite enjoyed the animation overall, despite the flaws.
Yeah.
For me, it didn't distract from it, and I think, coupled with the fact we're finally seeing these scenes that in this version were just Tom in front of the wall narrating them. We're now hearing them. We're hearing Lala say the words, because Romana is largely missing in this version because so much of the stuff that was not shot was the stuff with Romana and Skagra and the Krags on his ship.
Yeah.
Was all the stuff on Shada. Yeah, Shada. All the stuff that Romana plays a big role in isn't in this version at all because it wasn't shot, and now it finally is, and we get to see it. Any other things you want to bring up on this one? I like the I wish we could get out of here, and then she disappears, and then Chris spends the next 10 minutes with K9 like, I wish we could get out of here. Why is it not working?
I like when they're in that
it's just him and K9. It's like the whole like, what was it? Insufficient data. So why did I get caught up in all of this? Insufficient data?
I don't like K9's sassiness. I don't like that.
You're not a fan of the Briley K9, but that was perfectly pitched. The invisible ship.
When
Wonder Woman style.
Yeah.
That's all good when they're going up the ramp in the field and they're just walking on nothing. Yeah. That looks quite good.
When they were in that little prison cube room thing, Romana just said, "Oh, blast," and K9 just like fired his blaster.
Fires his laser. I'm firing my laser.
I thought that was funny. But no, it made a massive difference, this 2017 one.
Yeah.
Massive difference. I really, really... I thought it'd be quite difficult to watch both of them back to back.
I thought that was the weirdest part of this experiment. I thought, we're going to do Shada.
Watching the same
now
thing.
We've got them both. Let's watch them both, because I want you to have the context that me and loads of others had of this being the only one we could watch. Other versions, there's a couple novelizations. In 2011, another version was made with some of the cast returning. That was an animated version, but it's not really... I think it's available online, but it's not like a widely available version. Ian Levine was behind it. That one's out there somewhere. But the most notable adaptation of it is from the late 90s, early 2000s, when Big Finish teamed up with the Doctor Who website team, who had done some animated webcasts at this point, where they weren't like full-on animations, but they had like, visuals to them, and they were audio plays. Like the Colin Baker story Real Time, the Sixth Doctor figure we've got who's in a blue outfit, that's from that. That's based on that animated / illustrated audio. So they were like, we're going to animate Shada.
They should have kept it animated.
Well, they were going to do that, and it's a good suit. But they were going to do Shada, but Tom didn't want to do it, and a few other people weren't like happy with them doing it. So they're like, right, Lala's going to do it. I think John Leeson returned to be K9 for this version instead of David Briley, but it's Paul McGann. So they put the Eighth Doctor in it, and they work it into the Eighth Doctor's chronology instead. So for that one to make sense, this one has to have not happened.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a thing with them crossing over and stuff, and they pulled it off, and that for years was Shada to people. And it was kind of cool because at the time, obviously, Paul's Doctor had just one and done TV appearance, so he was existing in audio and comic book form. In this way, it was like, oh, the Eighth Doctor gets to bring Shada to life for everyone. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So Paul getting more stories, and it's a story we've all wanted to see.
Yeah,
and it's past companions that he gets to interact with. That's kind of it's cool that exists. But for me now, the fact if anyone now is trying to do it again, stop.
Don't.
Just don't. It's done. We've had it. I still don't think it's like a god tier story. No, it's not this. Its infamy exists because of its unobtainable nature.
Yeah.
Now we have so many versions of it. It's completely diluted.
It's not that special anymore.
And it's made myself, and I imagine some others, let us know in the comments, go, yeah, it's fine. But I will say, I always just thought it was, with this one. After this, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty great.
It is pretty good.
It's pretty good. I wouldn't put it like on City of... I'm out of the Douglas Adams scripts. I wouldn't say it's as good as City of Death. Weird to think that it'd been in the same season, though.
I know, bizarre.
I wouldn't have put it on City of Death level. I wouldn't be holding it up with some of our faves, like the Aztecs or Spearhead from Space. Like, I wouldn't be putting it up there just yet. But I'm glad we've got this version. And it's nice because it means that now I can finally, as we did with Web of Fear and the enemy of the world with the two Paddy stories, we can finally turn around the sleeve and add this. Because you do realise those two have been re-released again since as special editions with more features.
Oh right.
Yeah, we're not getting them.
Oh.
I'm not buying the same thing again. I've already done that here, thanks for Shada. But
What's that mark on the table?
Lord knows.
It's not a mark on the table, it's on the camera.
Yeah, it's a little
I'm an
memory card
idiot.
symbol.
I'm just an idiot.
What's that memory card shaped mark on the table? Where?
Green
Do you know what it
hair
isn't?
to distract from the stupidity.
Do you know what it isn't?
What?
Shada! Guys, have you seen any version of Shada? Have you read any version of Shada? Have you listened to any version of Shada? If so, what do you think of Shada? Oh,
Were
Shada.
you on Shada? What are you doing out of Shada?
You know, people speculate. Remember the cliffhanger to series 12 was the Jadoon finally catching up to their fugitive, knowing that the Doctor is the same person as who they were after, and they imprison her at the end.
Yeah.
The shot pulls out to reveal a prison in space, and it's like this multiple layered thing inside on the side of a big asteroid.
It's Shada then.
It looks like Shada, and
Makes
shortly
sense.
after it came up, people were like, "Is that Shada? Is that Shada? Why is no one making a bigger fuss that that's Shada?" So it'll be interesting to find out if it is.
That's quite cool.
Because I guess after this story, like, I guess if just some race stumbled upon this prison, they'd be like, "Oh, all these cells are empty." Yeah, because the prisoners were like, well, no, because they're implying this that they're going to return the prisoners to their cells. But if it's a Time Lord prison, maybe the Jadoon have got hold of it and decided to start using it as a prison for Time Lords.
It makes sense.
So who knows? Maybe we'll see Shada again in what's the story called? Revolution of the Daleks is that story. So if you're watching this after Revolution of the Daleks has come out in the future to when we're recording this, then let us know if we were right or wrong in the comments. Let us know your thoughts on Shada, and also, Boo.
Yes.
The next time we meet, we will be watching. Well, the next time we meet will be after this because we live together. But the next time we meet in this series, we'll be on Tom's last season.
What?
Are you ready for this?
That's insane. I know nothing about the next 3 Doctors. Nothing. Except one of Sylvester McCoy's episodes, not even a whole story.
Yeah, you've seen like episode 2 of Remembrance of the Daleks.
It's crazy. So it's going to be completely unknown territory for me.
Are you ready to say bye to Tom?
No!
During the rewatch of this, I think it was during this one, you said to me, you went, I think it was after he got off his cycle, leant it up against the no cycling sign and went, oh, sorry about that. And then just walked
No, he
off.
didn't. He said, I beg your pardon.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon. To the sign. I think it was after that, you turned to me and you went, I think he might be moving up. I think it might be Patrick. Because to you previously it was, like before all this, if David Tennant was your Doctor.
Yeah.
Then you went, I think it might be Patrick, then David.
Yeah.
And after that moment, you turned to me and you went, I think it might be David, Tom, Patrick.
I think it might
I was like, ooh! So, yeah. The tradition of picking different favourite Doctors based on who you've been watching continues. We'll see you next time, folks. Until then, Shada!